Only 2 matches remain, so I will not waste your time anymore as the weekly recap begins now. Welcome back everyone, as the final week of the regular season is now just getting underway, which means there is more violence to bring you on the Blood Bowl pitch as we talk about round 14 of the YouTuber League. The teams have all but been decided now, with only the faintest of hope remaining for the bottom few who may still have a chance. The anticipation is intoxicating as we now have a look at how our teams did this week. Starting off our week, to no one's surprise, is Omega Eta Alpha as they go up this time against the Outworn Ideas. After spending multiple weeks paired up against the easy pickings of the Bouncing Warriors, Bright Wings, and Electro Flesh, it was time to see what new tricks Omega Alpha had to bring against their fellow undead brethren. Starting to kick off, Scythe's main strategy was to put all his effort into keeping the Tomb Guards out of action, and with his team getting the offensive drive, this was an easy enough task to do for the team. Taking advantage of the Outworn's slower speed, Omega Alpha kept piling on the pressure with having a majority of their players on the line of scrimmage. And it wasn't long afterwards that the Khemri's formation started to crumble, giving Otter an easy opening through the sideline of the field and scoring a very quick touchdown. Thanks to a touchback to signal the next kickoff, Miasma goes all in for the end zone, not content with the idea of Omega Alpha getting the better of the Outworn. But with no support from his teammates, the ghouls happily surrounded and swarmed the arrogant blitzer, sacking him down on his bony ass and claiming the prize ball. Omega Alpha aimed to stall out the rest of the half to retain their lead, but it meant having to fight off the Tomb Guards, who were slowly encroaching on Otter. The ghoul held his death grip on the ball as long as he could, but it was only a matter of time before the rotting cadaver was knocked out, which was the moment Miasma was waiting for, as he reclaims the ball with enough time left on the clock to equalize the score for his team. Both sides are still retaining their 11 players for next kickoff, and with the Outworn gaining the offensive drive, the odds were looking well in their favor to win this match. However, with the American Dream failing repeatedly to grab the ball, it allowed Omega Alpha to slowly put the clamp on the Khemri, wearing down their lines as they worked to get their hands on the ball. Homeopathy was able to finally recover the ball for the team, but at this point, the Khemri team was surrounded on all fronts, prompting the ambiguous skeleton to attempt a pass over the head of Mummy Silas. The pass unsurprisingly fails, as the battle to claim the ball continued for the majority of the half. Somehow, in the chaos of the brawl, Pledge 3D Pete is the zombie to secure the ball, finding a window to break into the Outworn's defensive line and make his escape towards the end zone. It was the longest few minutes in the history of Blood Bowl, as the shambling zombie slowly made his way forward to secure the 1-2 victory for Omega Eta Alpha. Up next is our match pitting the Fragile Bloodmarks against the Large Legends, with the match starting very explosively as an immediate blitz by the Elven Union sets up the team for the easiest 2-turn touchdown in the league thus far, thanks partly to Ketchup, who'd rather be sleeping than help in trying to murder the elves. The moment of fortune sets the Bloodmarks up 1-0 before the match even can truly begin. With the game now properly underway, the Ogres go all out on the elves, sending nearly every one of them to the infirmary box for the stunt they pulled earlier. This rapidly puts the Bloodmarks in a massive deficit, and while they are able to take out Brickfart in short order, it required the entirety of the team to remove the star player from the pitch, leaving his cohort Grotti unpressured as he safely recovers the ball. The fame of being a highly valued player, however, made the Goblin overconfident, leaving an opening in the cage for Gingerbread Man to exploit, and before anyone could blink, the elves had successfully managed to keep the ball away from the ogres. 2 more elves were taken off the field in retaliation for the insult dealt to the brutes, and while the drive was looking in the Bloodmark's favor, they barely now had a team left on the pitch, which resulted in Sploosh suffering the same fate as his teammates when he tried to sneak away with the ball. Grotti, recovering from his earlier blitz, finally managed to reclaim the ball for the large legends, but due to the terrible screening from the Snotlings, Kerplunk happily puts the Goblin back into the dirt as the elves try one more pass at stealing the ball. With the sack and grab failing, the legends were still in the game as one desperate handoff between Fenris and Taxes ties up the match going into the second half. With 3 elves down and Brickfart missing for the next kickoff, the Bloodmarks once more push for an aggressive 2-turn play, thanks to the sideline opening that was presented to them. With the amazing feat of a Snotling actually taking down another player, however, the elves were caught flat-footed, as Ketchup took full advantage of the distraction, brute forcing his way onto Face to dislodge the ball. Despite his efforts, the fans were still rooting for the side of the elves, giving the Bloodmarks one more opportunity to take back their lead as they scored their second touchdown. It was the large legends' time to equalize the score once again, and with the damage they were able to do to the elves in the first half, it is most certainly possible. Only 8 elves are left standing between them and the end zone as Grotti establishes his place behind a screen of Snotlings. But Snotlings being Snotlings, the elves ran right past him like they didn't exist. With help from Sweet and Sour to evade the pursuing elves, the Star Goblin made his way up the end zone. But the cage of Snotlings serving to protect Grotti was easily overwhelmed by Kerplunk, as he casually takes the ball from the ogres with his pro-elf flair. Quickly handed it off to Face, there was little the ogres could do to come back from the drive, as the injuries present in the first half did not show themselves to save the large legends in the second half, leaving the Bloodmarks to secure their victory in a dominating 3-1 game. Our next match, featuring the Bouncing Warriors as they attempt to survive against the onslaught of the Cursed Suffering, in a very bloody match that sees the Dwarves taking full control of the pitch, crippling the poor Kislevs in the process. Nothing went the Warriors' way, for not only did the Sufferers win the match in a decisive 0-3 victory, but the Kislev team was completely cleared from the pitch by the end of the match, leaving many fans wondering if the Bouncing Warriors will no longer be able to continue on to the final match of the season. Moving on to our next brawl on the pitch, we have the godlike Puns going up against the Legglickers. Caveman is still away for important duties, as the assistant coaches continue to lead the team in his absence. But after losing their match against the Outworn Ideas last week, faith in the coaches could be dwindling. Starting off with the offensive drive, the Legglickers aim to strike on all sides of the map, attempting to break into the backlines of the Norse quickly, before they get an opportunity to recover. The ladies withstand the retaliatory blows, giving the window needed for Freyja to throw the ball up the field for a quick touchdown. But disaster strikes as she fumbles the ball on the line of scrimmage, and barely Odin on takes full advantage of this stroke of good fortune, as he dives into the backlines for a quick sack and grab. None of the Legglickers could keep up with Odin's blazing speed, as he sets the pace for the match, with the Puns being the first to get on the board. In an attempt to recover before the second half, the ladies try once more for a fast touchdown play, hoping the sheer swiftness of the tactic will throw off the Norsemen. I Apologize is the only one close enough to pursue Fridge as she makes her breakaway, but before he can knock her off the field, he trips at the final hurdle of his sprint, leaving an uncontested touchdown as the Legglickers manage to quickly tie the game up. We are still in the first half, but with it being the Pun's offensive drive, they decide to take a page from the Amazons' playbook, for after finally seeing some blood on the field to keep the fans' interest, barely Odin On decides it was time to put the ladies in their place. A quick pass to Juno sets up Alata punching for a sprint to the end zone, as before anyone could blink, the Norse already were back in the lead in time for the second half. The Leglickers are down to 10 players for the second half, and with the godlike Puns gaining the offensive drive, they'll need to bring back their top-tier play if they hope to recover from their current deficit. And they start off strong for the kickoff, blitzing in aggressively in an attempt to take out terrific Doggy and remove players from the field. However, with the attempt failing, this left a massive opening in the opposite side of the field for the Puns to exploit. With the ladies on Odin's heels, he adeptly avoids them as the drive carries on. With all the Amazon players separated across the field, their plethora of guard no longer was effective in the brawl to come, and were thoroughly beaten to a pulp, leaving the Puns in full control of the field as Alat goes in for the team's third touchdown of the match, securing their victory against the Amazons. The beatdown is about to continue, as now we have the heavyweights on the pitch, as the mini Sons of Anarchy go up against Fluffy Green. Unlike our Norse and Amazon game, these two teams are built for taking the blows for the meat grinder of a match that's about to ensue. Although, for the Orcs' offensive drive starting off, Mr. Snout has the easiest time to elude the clumsy dwarves, thanks to the insane finesse of the Blitzer. He still has to fight for a touchdown, however, as both runners Juice and Tig come to run him down, as both teams repeatedly change hands over possession of the ball. During all this time, the Orcs were winning the brawl in the line of scrimmage, and as more and more Orcs came in to support Mr. Snout, the Dwarves were eventually forced to concede the first touchdown to the Greenskins. To the fans' disappointment, JT and his Death Roller was removed from the game before the second half could begin, leaving the Sons of Anarchy down to 10 players for the next kickoff. But even with the deficit, they were eager to return the beatdown that was dealt to them. But Dribblesnot had other plans, as during the blitz by the Orcs, the diabolical bomber managed to leave a surprise for the Dwarves to celebrate the start of the half. As the Dwarves struggle to recover, Mr. Fluffy is knocked out on the pitch, where we see the surprising interference of the Apothecary quickly rush in to knock some sense back into the Troll. With his job done, the Doctor walked out of the stadium, uninterested in the rest of the game, just as Mr. Pawpaw trips and suffers a fractured leg, missing the next match so that he can recover for the playoffs to come. This injury, however, sparked new vigor into the Dwarves, and with all players recovered on the line of scrimmage from Dribblesnot's sneaky bomb, they dived headlong into the Orcish brutes. Fluffy Green tried desperately to cover the sideline gap, but Juice was too fast for him as he continued to charge forward. The Orc Blitzers repeatedly failed to tie the runner down as he manages to get the Dwarves back into the game as he ties it up 1-1. With time still left on the clock, they put all their faith in the speed of Mr. Snout, gambling that he could break through the lines to achieve victory for the Orcs. He almost didn't make it, for the Dwarves were on him immediately as Opie blitzes the runner down. But Snout keeps his footing, losing the Dwarves as he claims the victory for Fluffy Green in the final seconds of the match. Our final 3 matches for the week were incredibly one-sided games that need no explanation. For How Not to Contain Lizards, the Jailhouse Rockers, and Reichland All Elite dominated their opponents for their matches, with every single game resulting in a 3-0 victory for each of our players. Which ultimately brings us now to the end of our recap, with the Leglickers getting knocked off their spot in the top 3 rankings, as Fluffy Green happily takes over for them in the process. Every one of these teams can do a victory lap around the pitch as they await for the playoffs to begin, while everyone else has one final chance to secure their spot as we move on to the final week of the season. Starting off for the final time is Omega Eta Alpha as they this time face the Mini Sons of Anarchy. I honestly believe there is a conspiracy here, greater than any play that has occurred so far in the season itself, with how the Undead team have constantly been the ones to start off our recaps. But will they have what it takes to put the dwarves down and survive against the might that is JT? Match 2 pits the godlike puns against the venomous snakes, and with how new this team is to the league, I doubt they will have a chance to survive the beatdown that's coming to them. This will be a nice relaxing week to prepare Malt's team for the playoffs. Match 3 is the Bouncing Warriors vs Electro Flesh, where both teams broken to the point of barely being recognizable. These two teams will at long last have a chance to gain some glory before the season ends. But it'll only be a question of which of these teams is still going to be left standing to claim that prize. Match 4 is the Fragile Bloodmarks vs Reichland All Elite, and with how easily the elves have been getting bashed on the field so far, this will certainly be a bloody game to watch, for the human team is just as quick as the elves, so any tricks the Bloodmarks try to pull can very easily be countered. This is one of the highlight matches to watch, so be sure to tune in for it. Match 5 is the Outworn Ideas vs the Brightwings. The Outworn, I fear, may be just out of the running for making the playoffs, and as a result of that, I believe the Brightwings are going to suffer a full beatdown from the Khemri team as they take their pent-up frustration out on the elves. Match 6 is the Large Legends as they face off against the Jailhouse Rockers, and this will be a match to tune in for, folks, for even though the Ogre team cannot make the playoffs, if they are able to deny the Rockers victory, they can take the Skaven team down with them as the season comes to an end. But First Degree, with his ultimate combination of block, claw, and mighty blow, will see to it personally that does not happen, and kill an ogre or two in the process, just for show. Match 7 pits the Cursed Suffering up against How Not to Contain Lizards. The Cursed Suffering are very much in the same position as the Rockers, where winning or losing could decide if they make the playoffs. But their adversary is the number 1 team of the season, which means a very steep hill is going to need to be climbed if the Dwarves want to secure victory. You can never underestimate the Sufferer's Claws though, which may single-handedly decide the outcome of this match. Finally, our final match before the playoffs begins is the Leglickers as they face off against Fluffy Green. This is another highlight match to tune in for, as Caveman is returning to the field, and I can tell you this, he is not happy with losing his number 1 spot in these past few weeks, and Fluffy Green are going to have to fight to retain their spot on top. Be sure to tune in for it. It won't be much longer now until the best of the best are decided and have to face each other off one last time to at long last answer the question of which of them is to be crowned the best of the league. I thank you all for watching, and have a good night.